Welcome to Cha with Laura and Leah. This is Nadia.
Hey, y'all.
And what are we drinking?
Hey. This is chrysanthemum tea.
Korean tea.
It's Korean tea.
It says Sangye cha, I guess. Look at the cha's written in the traditional Chinese. Mm-hmm. I can't read that. Can you read that?
I can't read Chinese, no.
No, cannot. But this is actually really special because we were all together less than a week ago, and Nadia very kindly cooked for my birthday dinner, and it was delicious. And honestly, the first time I really had Palestinian food.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I've had little bits, but I haven't even been to the restaurant that's a mile from here.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've had little tastes here and there, but never a home cooked meal. Right?
Aww.
Never so it was super special. And I was just impressed the whole time. And I told you already by text that you've inspired Riker, my son, to just cook. I mean, he's not really cooking. But he is he's using the stove and putting things in the oven. And do you remember when you were there? He was
He came and he was asking a few questions.
He asked me, he kept asking me questions. And I'm like, why do you ask Nadia? But he's really interested first in Palestine, but also in food. I think he's a foodie. He's only 10, but.
That's great.
So, I mean, there's so much we want to get into, but first, how did you get into cooking?
Yeah, how did I get into cooking? So it's kind of funny because I was actually a very, very picky eater as a kid. I didn't eat salads. I didn't eat fresh fruit. There was so many textural things I did not eat. And so I was a troubled, nobody in my family would have expected me to get into food or be a chef in any way. And it really, I really started cooking when I moved away to college, moved to the city. And the first year I was there, I was not eating any of my family's food. I wasn't eating the food I grew up eating, and I just didn't know how to really nourish myself from the college cafeteria. And as soon as I had a kitchen, I just needed to, it was I've told you, it was a soul retrieval kind of experience. I just started telling my mom, I really need to be eating this food. I need to learn how to make these things. Can you send me voice notes? And she started sending me voice notes for just the easiest things I could make.
Well, what was one of them?
One of them was shorbet frike. So frike soup. So frike is a cracked wheat. Yes. That's really, really, it's this ancient grain that's very, very good for you. And you just cook it in chicken broth with some onions and spices. And it's a great thing to have if you're not feeling well. It's just really easy to digest and very easy to make. So I think that was one of the first things. But yeah, as soon as I had a kitchen, I just kind of became obsessed with being good at making anything I tried. So I just kind of started experimenting.
Did it come naturally? Were you sort of just good at, because I feel some people are just innately good at putting flavors together or just knowing things.
I think in some, other people will probably say yes to me. Yes. I mean, the thing is,
it's a thing, right?
It's yeah. It's very intuitive. It's a very intuitive type of cooking. When my mom sent me recipes, she wasn't sending me measurements. She was saying about this, about that. And I started developing my own taste. And what I understood as well about my own pickiness was just that really it was just outside the home. I'm just very particular about how I like things cooked, how much they should be cooked, the flavors they should have. So I just started to learn my own particularities and things that I liked. And, I would experiment on my friends. I've moved all over the city in the 12 years I've been here. And I'd be far away up in Washington Heights and trying a new dish. And I would ask my friends to come up for dinner. And they would travel an hour and how much it was to come eat my food. And, when you're 20, 21, nobody's making home cooked meals for your friends, right? Yeah. That's not dinner parties were not a thing people were doing. So I was doing that and started to kind of have this reputation as being the one who'd have you over for a really nice meal. And it just brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So it started that way and self-taught. And I shared that because I believe that it's a very human thing to have the intuition to feed yourself well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of people say like, oh, I could never do this or that. It's like, yes, you can. Like you can, like I taught myself, and this stuff is actually not, it's not objectively difficult. It just requires some patience and some TLC. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all started in the kitchen for me. And at the same time I was doing like film work, and that was like my main kind of work that I was doing, and just like cooking on the side.
But it also helped you to connect to your roots, because every Palestinian person I've met, especially like ones that have been displaced or the diaspora, like food is so important to your culture. So like learning how to cook your people's food, did that also help you connect back to your identity?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and at that time, there weren't as many like cool Arabic restaurants in New York. Like there wasn't, I remember there's this one Lebanese place called Beledi in the East Village that I went to, and it was the first time in like the months that I'd first been here that I had an Arabic meal out in the city, and like just the way it made me feel.
Yeah, how did it make you feel?
Just so like so taken care of and at home, and I could speak Arabic with the waiter, and like it very much yeah, you know, just, you know, scent memories are so powerful, and like being able to have my grandma's spice mix in my kitchen and like make a soup or make whatever it is, and like inhale the scent of my grandmother's house in Amman and feel like I'm like back with my people. It's so healing to the body, but also just to the spirit, you know? Yeah.
I mean, is it haram to use an olive oil that's not from Palestine?
No, but you need to use a good olive oil. Because here in America, most of the olive oil we get is like crap.
Yeah.
It's not.
Because I know how important the olive tree is, like the symbolism of it, and also what it means to your culture. Because we, as Koreans, have that with the mugunhwa flower. It's like a symbol of resilience for us, but we don't eat it, obviously. And I learned throughout the last 16 months how important the olive tree is for y'all. So is that also like part of, like, I don't even know how to say this in words or even a question, but like eating olive oil, it's like consuming something that's like thousands and thousands of DNA in you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and most, you know, our olive trees in Palestine, like many of them are hundreds and hundreds of years old. Like they're in that ground, and they've been there. And I mean, getting to taste Palestinian olive oil is very I mean, it's a visceral experience. I'm now very blessed to have like a few different kinds in my kitchen right now, and they all just like I mean, it's amazing to be able to access it now here.
Well, like we were talking about the other day, they sell the brand Kanan in Whole Foods. Like you found it in Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And so as like we have all over the last 16 months been trying to sound the alarm on the war crimes that are happening, we're also being reminded to center all this beautiful like elements of Palestinian people and culture. And so understanding that is also resistance, right? The fact that you can ingest the olive oil, the fact that you can bring your like food from your family and your relatives, your ancestors into like this moment in time, there has to be some like alchemizing power to that, right? And like just this like persistence to be like, no, you're not going to erase this. You can like burn as many olive trees as you want, but we're gonna plant more.
Yeah.
And like Mo is the show on Netflix. Did you watch all of it?
Not all of it.
Okay.
I'm a few episodes in. I've heard like the last 2 episodes are just like I haven't gotten there yet. But
I'm still only in season 1.
Okay,
I'm watching it very slowly.
We won't do any spoilers.
Yeah.
I watched all of
amazing.
season 2, and when I started, I was like pacing it. I'm like, oh, I'll watch an episode here, maybe one tomorrow, and then once you get to like I think the middle of season 6, I couldn't stop. I like sat here while my kids were awake, and I was like this, like I'm like I have to watch to see what happens.
Oh wow.
But I mean that storyline is so real about it's like the olive tree is an actual character in that show, right? So what is it like for you to see this like work of art and entertainment, especially with your filmmaking background on like a major streaming channel in this country, you know, that like is really committed to erasing Palestinian identity. But
yeah,
you know, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean for you?
It's surreal. It's so surreal. I mean, I think just getting to see, it's the kind of show that I wished would have existed when I was younger. You know, the first ever piece of like Palestinian cinema, like Palestinian American cinema that I saw was Shireen Dabis's America, which I don't know if either of you watched. It's excellent. It was her first feature she ever did. She was very young. It came out, I think, in like 2009 or something. And it's a story about this Palestinian family, this mom and son from Bethlehem who immigrate to the U.S. in like immediate post 9/11 America to like rural Indiana, and just all the things that they dealt with that, and seeing this, and they moved in with her sister who's like raised her kids in America, and seeing this like Palestinian American family and all the dynamics and like the switching languages and like just all those little cultural things that I really felt like no one around me understood, especially because growing up in Connecticut, I didn't have that kind of community around at all. It was so incredibly inspiring. Like that's honestly like the film that made me know like I need to get into the media industry, because like this is the kind of like this, it had such an impact on me. And seeing now like Mo coming out is just, I mean, it's just so good. Yeah. It's also, it helps that it's also just such an amazing show.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
Just from,
it's so funny.
Just from storytelling and like entertainment perspective, right? Like it's really amazingly written, just like without any of the...
But I'm also happy and glad and grateful that I know the culture a little bit more now, so I get some of the inside jokes, because like some of that stuff you wouldn't really know, you know, like just for example, like the contrast between I'm only in season 1, so his experience and his girlfriend's, right, and how he's like Muslim and she's Catholic, but it's the same religion, and so how like the interplay of those two experiences was just so funny to me. But I would never have known that if I didn't have like a little glimpse into the culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, this is so funny and so well written.
It is, and it just there's so many little like points and lines and things that just hit so deep, and just, you know, it feels incredible to really see yourself and your family represented on such a big screen,
and especially like, in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Like as we have been, like as our country has been funding genocide, to see that it's there's something my brain can't like. Yeah, it just feels so big. It means something. It means something because culture is huge, right? It like, especially in the West, I feel like a lot of people look to entertainment and like writers and even celebrities to make their own decisions about how they should feel about things, right? That's why like we've been really like criticizing mainstream media because
they've been dehumanizing Arab people for so long in movies and TV shows.
And this is like a blatant opposition to that. It's a rejection of that. So it gives me hope that you're seeing these very humanized people that don't look like the average American. And we were just saying like it's like in the top 10 on when you go to the Netflix menu. So it's like you can't...
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just like... And the powers that be probably don't want that, but people are invested. And this also goes to like where you put your money matters, right? Like where we put our attention. So we as people who feel really powerless about so much, like you show that you are invested in something, that you'll get behind something. I think that's going to be a huge part of all of this like global activism or whatever you want to call it. Like
it's like soft power.
Right.
It's like when you can shift the narrative in media and through culture, like your food, it's like infiltrating the system in a different way.
Right.
So you studied film. That's why you moved to New York. So is that something that you still do?
Yeah, I do. The last couple years, I've really been so focused on food and cooking, but a strong intention of mine to get back into media. I did just cinematography and photography for like my entire career, really, until the reason I started doing food is because I started producing a cooking show of myself, just for fun. And then that led into people starting to ask me to do things and like teach, and that kind of all played out as it did. But no, I love it. And I think ultimately I'd love to merge those two disciplines together. And
I love cooking shows.
Yeah. Well, I was like, when are you gonna write the cookbook?
Yeah.
Inshallah. That's very strong. That's something I really would like to do. Maybe in the next few years. And
planting
God
the
willing,
seed.
God willing.
I mean, would you? So you don't do a cooking show now?
I haven't. Well, I haven't put as much energy into my YouTube channel the last couple years as I would really like to.
Right.
I want to make more, but also I think I used to just share, family recipes just by themselves, and I think that I'm just more interested in some deeper storytelling and deeper conversations rather than just providing a recipe. And like what exactly that looks like hasn't come clear to me yet. But like just sharing a recipe video doesn't excite me as much anymore. I'm just more interested in something a little bit more provocative, a little bit more, just like with a bit more depth and story. Because food is a vessel for that.
That's like Anthony Bourdain.
I know, I was thinking the same. I'm getting goosebumps.
Muse.
Guy.
Because he used it as a vehicle to show culture, essentially, around the world.
He was amazing.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
He was so amazing.
Actually, the first time I met you, I didn't even realize you were cooking, because I met you at an event where you were making the food. And because I actually found you on TikTok through a video that you were talking about spirituality. I never told you this.
On TikTok, girl? I'm like barely on TikTok. That's surprising.
This was like very early on, like probably October of 2023. And I saw a video of you talking about spirituality and how this is a spiritual thing. What's going on with Palestine and all of us being awakened by it. And then when I met you, I was like, you cook? I was like, huh?
I keep it really mysterious as to what I actually do.
Because also I went to your healing circle with Nelly on Zoom, like very early on. So I thought you were this like spiritual girly, which you are, but that's not just what you do, right? So like rewinding back to October when I saw this video, how much of all of this is like your spiritual practice?
Oh my gosh, all of it. I think life is now. I'm trying to just move in that way as much as possible. Anytime I'm, distracted away from that core path, I think I'm just trying to weave back. I think everything that I do weaves into this same very, very spiritually led mission, inshallah. I hope. Yeah. But yeah.
And what is your spirituality? Is it based on Islam or?
Yeah, I was raised with Islam. Very blessed to be raised with just a deep sense of peace and personal connection to God. Like the way that my mom raised me is just like, I could not thank her enough, because I've really never like questioned faith or felt a lack of faith. I think it's just become stronger as I've grown up and I've leaned on it more and realized how it plays into just my whole being and every part of my life. And so Islam was kind of the foundation, and I have learned from other teachers and lineages as well that ultimately have kept leading me back to that same core.
And like it within Islam, like, is it okay to learn from other, other spiritual practices or even other like religious texts? Because I grew up Catholic and it was very much not okay to do, it was very like no, anyone who's not Catholic is like, they probably said we're going to go to hell or something. I'm not a practicing Catholic at all anymore, but I didn't know much about the Muslim faith except for what was like propagandized into me. And I was really surprised as I learned more about Palestinians and Islam in general over the last like year plus, that it's like, we love Jesus.
We love Jesus.
You know?
Jesus
like,
is great.
And I was, like, I just was like, wait, but that's not what I know about it, Like, I'm like, I thought Jesus is only with, like, Christian religions.
Isn't he in the Quran? Like, he makes an appearance.
Yeah.
He's actually mentioned, I think, more times than the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah, so, see?
Yeah.
And so, like, is it, I don't know, I find that amazing. Like, that's just, like, and, of course, then you have more freedom to cultivate what your personal relationship with God is when you're not being told, hey, you have to only believe this way or else, which is how I felt I was, in the Catholic Church. So, yeah, I mean, is it something that it's welcome to, dip into other types of practices? And
I'll speak for the way that I was raised, but I think that the core of it is that we learned that the Quran was channeled and it is this pure, unaltered, sacred text, and that ultimately all faiths lead back to this same truth. So I think for me, it was very important to always kind of keep that as the core of where I come from and how I was raised and what I grew up learning, and anything that's entered my field and my path has always been very clear to me whether it's like deviating me from that path or it's like a supplement and it's adding more perspective, more facets of understanding to others and to my life. And so I just find that everything always leads back to God, and ultimately that relationship is like the one path. And so anything that helps like shape me around and like keep bringing me back to that, I welcome into my life, and it's very clear when that's the case and when it's not, but I mean, everybody has their own way of practicing, but I've brought, things to my mom that I've learned, and she's been like, oh yes, well in the Quran it says this actually. So yes, that's very true. And that's kind of, it's always been a very like curious, open, like,
right. Which again is really different to like European Christian religions. Yeah. Right. I mean, just from what I know, it's just like, and the thing that like kind of drives me crazy is that we were told it's the opposite. You're told about like, I mean, because like Islamophobia is just embedded in our culture in the West. And so yeah, it's just wild. Like everything is opposite. Like everything is opposite to what we've been told, I feel like. You're like, I know.
When you learn like the pillars of Islam, they're antithetical to US capitalism and imperialism, because like one of the things I learned is that you have to help people and you can do no harm, and obviously when it comes to resistance, like that is fighting for life. But when you think about that, it is like in its essence about love and community and helping people who are less fortunate than you, which is like not how we grew up here in the US. So that's why they would demonize it and say like, it's a terrorist, faith, but in reality it's not.
It's it's ultimately a faith of peace. Like that's really when we greet somebody, we say peace be upon you. Right. Like these are the ways that we speak to each other are like God forward in every word sentence, has every
Allah.
blessing. and even with charity and giving, like I'm doing like a daily like Quran study right now, which has been like just so good for my heart, and remembering that, for instance, you're required to give to charity, and when you do, it is more honorable not to share publicly about it. Like we're encouraged to give ourselves, but then not
talk about it.
Not talk about it. Not
like an ego kind of thing.
Yeah. Like that's very much not the teaching. It's like you want to like do it. You're not doing it for other people. You're doing it for God.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the activism that's going on right now, like post October, and almost, everybody that has been awakened by what's going on in Palestine and who is pro-Palestine is showing up in a certain way, right? Like, what are your thoughts about that? Is it weird now that everyone is like free Palestine and people are wearing keffiyehs, but there has to be a dark side to that, right?
Man, I mean, I love that people are showing up for Palestine and wearing keffiyehs. I think after my whole life, like, nobody knowing anything or caring at all about this, it's so amazing and refreshing. I think, I mean, there's an element of, you know, people being like late, but also I don't have the energy to complain about them being late. I'm just glad they're here.
That's what I hear from,
you know,
like every Palestinian
person.
It's like, it's like, great. Be
You're
here,
finally
ask
here.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely, you know, people navigate it in very different ways. People navigate helping, informing allies in different ways. I try to practice a lot of patience and a lot of compassion in general in my life. And try to be the person who someone can come to with, like, the uncomfortable question. And it's like, it's not weird to me. We can talk about it, you know? And yeah, I think also with any sort of movement like this or any other, it's really important for people to be very clear on, what's in their heart and what they, you know, what's in their reality and what they, just, like, really deeply in touch with, like, core truth rather than because there's so many influences trying to grasp our attention and tell us the right way to do things. And we need to like really lock in and be focused and clear. And I think that, you know, maybe some are worried about a bandwagon or people jumping on something without really knowing about it, but it's like, you know what's in your heart. Like, that's the most important thing. So, like, keep coming back to that. And what does your heart say? It's never going to lie to you, you know?
But if people have that
I was going to say, like, most people, so
Yeah.
many of us are severed from that understanding, like the ability to hear that inner voice, you know? And that's intentional. That's intentional, but growing up here. So I think that's sometimes what happens. Like, people get into activism, they're awakened, they want to help. But, like, what channel is that going through? Like, what we know as Americans is, like, competition. Like, wanting to be the influencer, wanting to be the leader, wanting to, you know, that's kind of, so I think sometimes we see this, like, so-called activism going through that way, which maybe, like, derails ultimately what's happening. But maybe what you're saying is we keep reminding each other to, like, try to come through the heart space and through the intuition. And I guess, like, the more of us that keep doing that, it'll ultimately help. I don't know. But I do see a lot of, you know, people who I feel like they mean well, but it's like, ooh, they're kind of, like, it's somehow become about their own ego. Or
I guess.
Yeah, what's the dark side that you're kind of referring to?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the dark side. I think you're just being polite. Well, it's because the United States, we are not bonded through tribe or religion. Like, Palestinians in Palestine have a united tribe, an identity of resilience, which, by the way, is that annoying? Like, Palestinians are resilient, you know?
It's like, we don't want to be resilient.
I know,
we just want to be free.
We just want to be liberated. And they have a common religion. While everyone is not Muslim, like, it is the predominant religion there, right? So,
And Christianity as well.
and Christianity. And it's like, that's why the resistance movement is so successful. And also, let's say the Haitian Revolution, they had their own spiritual practice and identity. But the US, we don't have that. So when we come at a cause like Free Palestine, everyone has different motives and everyone's coming at it from a different place. And so when you were saying, what prompted that question was when you said, when you give charity, you don't talk about it. And so I was just curious, like, what have you seen in terms of activism now and how the dark side of it. Like people just joining the bandwagon for their own, you know, growing their own platforms and being the face of this movement, you know?
I mean, that stuff, I feel like you can see straight through it and people aren't.
Can you?
Maybe I
You can.
You can, but she has
I'm
been
constantly bamboozled. I'm telling you about that. I mean, I can see more now, but I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, I mean, I think it goes back to white supremacy generally in our culture and how whiteness is always centered and white voices are always centered. And like, I'm programmed to be like that, even as I am not a white person and even as I don't want to be that way. It's like, I find myself like, oh my God, I've been taken in by this particular person whose analysis on whatever it is, feminism, Palestine, like anything, our government, politics. It's like, I almost like blindly believed it. Like, and it goes back to propaganda, you know, and there's so much rewiring I've had to do over the last 16 months, which like, I guess I think about, you talk about radical compassion a lot. And I think like I have to have that for myself, but it's like, you wake up and you're like, I should know better. Like, that's what I think. Like I'm awake to something that I wasn't aware of before, but I find myself still getting sucked into these like
grifters.
Yeah, grifters, or just like people that don't, you know, that say free Palestine, but like normalize things that will not lead to a free Palestine, you know?
Like liberal Zionism.
Yeah, like liberal Zionism. Yeah. See, because you're not surprised, right? You're just like, of course, all of this has existed.
And I feel like I'm very suspicious of people.
I'm gonna be now. I'm be suspicious of everyone now. I need to be more suspicious.
Because I always try to listen to the actual people, like actual Palestinians, you know? And there's different perspectives within that group. Like you have people from Gaza, and then you have like Palestinian Americans, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like, no, there's like a spectrum of...
Yeah, it's like Palestinians aren't a monolith, right?
No,
like
not
nobody's
at all.
a monolith. So
not at all.
So there was a big call to listen to Palestinian voices, which like, yes, but then what do you do when they're like really different voices? You know what I mean? So there's been like, I think we're just trying to learn, you know, like, and find what's true. But what I'm hearing from you is like, well, we have to like put that through our own heart, like what feels right to us, like what parts of the movement call to us the most, you know, like, because everyone's going to have different conversations. Like your conversation is through your cooking and your other artwork and things like that. That is part of it. Whereas someone else might be, hey, let me break down the history for you. Let me just like just talk, like that's gonna be my focus, or you know, like, or the political movements within. Like there's all different pieces. And I guess there will mostly be overlap to the overall story, but sometimes there may be like things that don't necessarily, I don't know, like match or even focus on the same, if that makes sense. Like, so I guess it's a lot of information to try to take in and to know like what to make of it. And every time I feel like I understand, I like learn more.
Yeah. Well, I think, go on. I think just like seeking to understand is kind of the best way to move through these things in general. And also just the understanding that people are, you know, I know many Palestinians who have like very different opinions about what's the best thing to do, what's the best way to show up publicly, like, you know, in their lives, or how, you know, how they think people should talk in general. Like there's just a lot of different facets of thought, and that's also okay. And like we don't need to come to, I think what I've learned through meeting a lot of different people is ultimately we share the same values, and we are seeking to more deeply connect rather than more deeply like create categories and separate. And that's also part of the kind of radical compassion concept that I talk about a lot, is just that we need to get into the parts of ourselves that refuse to understand another and like confront that border within ourselves, because if we don't do that, then there's going to be no there's going to be no moving forward if we can't be willing to see the person in front of us and all the experiences that have led them to feel the way that they do.
Yeah.
No matter who they are. And that's tough. And I think that's tough for a lot of activists as well, even, non-Palestinians who come in, because, it's very easy to just set somebody as bad and an enemy and kind of refuse to look into, like, well, what made them that way? What made them, like, believe that? Okay, curious. Like, and also it requires you to create safety within yourself to be, like, open to understanding, because understanding is not the same as endorsement or allowance of bad behavior. Like, I can seek to understand someone. It just makes me more perceptive and aware and able to move with more grace and smoothness, you know?
So are you saying, maybe this is an extreme example, but are you saying that, like, a Zionist, you would make space for understanding, or not so much?
It's not, well, it is, no. I mean, the thing is, like, I make space, like, I understand why they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
I understand why they move the way they do. I pray for them on their path for God to reach them in the way that they need to be reached. I don't, in my personal life, I create strong boundaries in my personal life to where, like, if I'm not
my life,
if I'm not like if I'm showing up to something, I'm working, I'm speaking, I'm engaging, I'm ready to engage in conversation with people, I need to have a very clear kind of understanding of my capacity, and also it's not like a protectiveness, it's just like, understanding when to step in and step out. But when it comes to my personal life, like, I don't want that around. I want to be able to relax and let loose and just, like, be myself. And so there's no and that doesn't mean, like, I lose the capacity to empathize or understand somebody. It's just
boundaries, like personal boundaries. I mean, it's really relevant to the political moment we're here in the US right now, right? With the divide and the continued division, and realizing, like, what the only way forward is to be able to understand people that you disagree with, right? That we have totally different values or thoughts about how things should be. Because if we just stay in our corners judging or refusing to understand other people, like, that's like what got us here. This, like, thinking like, oh, there's this party and there's this party, and you guys are on different sides, and who's going to win this time? And if you really think about it, like, who benefits from that kind of mindset, as opposed to if we were all to come together and try to, like, find, like, the humanity in each other. And it's not possible with everybody, with, like, I think there's extremes. But I feel like most of us, there has to be an ability to meet like that.
Yeah, the example that I have kind of touched on, spoken about a bit, but I've, like, not come out and talked about on Instagram because I don't really know how to do it in, like, a short conversation. But, like, I think when I, like, talk about this concept of radical compassion, the kind of immediate example that I bring forth, especially to, like, people part of the movement at the beginning, was, there were so many conversations about, the resistance fighters, about Hamas, about, this category of people labeled as terrorists, and so many people just kind of refusing to even, that topic is so incredibly taboo that it's scary for people to even, like, touch a level of understanding, like, what would drive somebody to do that? Yeah. What conditions would push somebody to the edge where, like, that is what they're going to do? And if you're unwilling to come to understanding or empathy with that person, like, your compassion and your empathy is non-existent. And that's I think something that is slowly, shifted, changed, more people are started to become more open to, but definitely at the beginning, and it continues to be, is a very, like, difficult topic for people to even, it's as if, like, them being willing to understand that person, like, is unsafe. And that's what we gotta, like, understanding is not unsafe. Like, we gotta break that down. Yeah. And that's just, like, a core example that I know is not a problem in this room, but in a lot of rooms, it's a big problem.
Don't you
know
think
what I mean?
it's kind of shifting now, because they keep showing, and maybe it's only because that's
Our
the side
algori-
of
our
Instagram
algorithm.
and TikTok that I'm on.
Yeah.
It's like they're showing all the videos of Hamas handing over the hostages like brand spanking new. You know, I feel like there's a different marketing here.
It's things are shifting and changing, and people are just continuing to learn, but it's not all at once. And I think the confronting thing for people is just having to confront the parts of themselves that want to like label this person as like barbaric or an animal or this. It's like, actually, you don't get to label people like that and feel good about yourself. Actually, you've done no work if you're if you're not willing to do that. And the difficult side of it is then also showing that same kind of, and this is for people in positions of privilege, like who are not immediately impacted, who have the mind and heart space to do this work, is to be willing to see a human on the other side, no matter who's in front of you.
Yeah.
Like there is a human in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, but baseline, like this person was born pure as a baby.
Yeah. That's
You know?
what blows my mind constantly. Like, I have 2 kids, and you just really understand nobody is born full of hate. Like, you're just
No.
not. You're born wanting connection. Like, literally, we're talking about, because your sister is a NICU nurse, right? And we're talking about, like, babies, when they're born, they literally need to feel like another human being.
yeah.
They need to feel that to survive. And you're born wanting that, to connect and to be seen and to be loved and held. And so something happens along the way. It has to. Like, and we need to ask that question. Like, what happened along the way to, like, mold you into whatever you become, and when what you become is...
But not also when it's convenient for our own narrative, because like I was able to do that with Hamas, but then it's like now the other side, the IOF soldier, you know, it's like, can I do that?
I think that's what Nadia is saying,
Yeah.
right?
It's like it goes both
it's still a
ways.
human in front of you, and
well,
like
barely.
I mean, it's like when there's such a clear
It's tough.
imbalance
It's
of
so
power.
hard.
It's the same thing. Like, if you were to look at like a parent abusing a child, like an adult abusing a child. Yes, they're both humans, but the power difference makes it so clear, like, who you would side, like,
But
who
it's
you
still
would
the
want to
same
protect.
process of how
Right.
that person became
Yeah.
that way. You know,
Yeah, well,
how
this
did
is-
they get trained to hate Palestinian people so much?
Yeah.
To then want to murder them?
Billions of dollars of propaganda.
Yeah.
As we talk about. But I think this is why it's ultimately all like inner work. It's a spiritual practice.
It is.
It has to be. Like, it has to
It
go
is.
back to, like, are you
And
able...
having self-awareness, I think that's the hardest part, is like recognizing within you when you have bias.
Right,
you have to,
exactly.
like,
Like, are you able to
dismantle
do that? Yeah. Which is hard.
And so how do you
hard.
reconcile being a U.S. American paying taxes, bombing your own people? Like, split your brain?
I mean, I wouldn't say even reconcile it. I just, I spent many years of my life feeling like I was in this place I don't belong. Like, why am I here? I'm far from my people. Like, I'm not on my land where I'm supposed to be. And have come to the place now where I believe and understand myself, and all Palestinians in diaspora too have been intentionally placed in the places that we're at to do a certain kind of work for the liberation that only we can do, only from the place that we're in. And so, you know, it's become very clear to me that being here and being in New York is important, and I have a job. Like, I have a job to do here. That's kind of how I see it.
I mean, imagine
Like,
if you
know.
and no other Palestinians were in the United States. Like, imagine if that, you know, like, if
God.
there was no Palestinian presence, what the state of things would be. You know?
Weird.
Like, so it's such a weird thing to reconcile, and, like, you have to be here. I totally can see that. I mean, I'm like that too. I'm like, what am I doing here? Why are we here? You know? And it's like this feeling also of like, guilt.
Well, we're in the belly of the beast.
We're in the belly of the beast,
Yes.
on stolen
Yes.
land,
Yeah.
you know, paying the taxes, as you mentioned. So it's like, like in many respects, like we're the bad guy.
No, we're killing the Death Star from within. Like if you think of Star Wars,
It is.
right?
It's like playing. It's like I kind of imagine there's just like this grand. I see social media this way as well. Like we're in this big video game, and there's certain like rules and tricks and things you can do, and like there's I feel like I am kind of infiltrating a system right now with just my presence. And I felt that through, like, I've been in social groups and groups of people where I just, like, suddenly find myself around, like, a bunch of, like, liberal Zionists. And I'm like, why am I here? Like, why am I here? And I used to just get very angry about that. And now when I find myself in those spaces, I'm like, okay, well, like, I'm here to, like,
Disrupt.
I'm here to disrupt something, and I
Yeah.
have disrupted existing systems just through like being there. And I'm like, okay, that's part of my
existence
job
is
here.
resistance.
Yeah.
Hey.
You're literally just like with your aura. You're like,
Yeah.
making space.
I'm trying to do my best, yeah. But I just like, I think making kind of peace, or not even like making peace, but just kind of accepting the position I'm in the job that I've been given, and the skills that I have that allow me to do things here that I'm meant to do to help.
Yeah.
And like, I think for me, spending time in the guilt of being here has been unproductive and just made me sad.
Right.
And I'm like, no, like I've got stuff to do. Like
Yeah.
God put me here.
Yes.
God put me
How
here.
how did your family, can you tell us a bit about like how your family lineage goes? Like
Yeah.
where people
Yeah, my grandma was born in Haifa, and she left when she was 7 in 48. She and all her siblings, they left on a boat to Beirut, and they went to a few different places, and eventually she got married and settled in Kuwait. That's where she had my mom. So my mom grew up in Kuwait. On my grandfather's side, he is from a tiny village outside Jenin. I still have a lot of family there. We have an olive farm. I have never been there, and inshallah I'm going to be able to go there one day soon. But yeah, we have like a village that's literally like just my family, apparently.
So you have an olive farm. Like
We do.
your family is from an olive farm.
Oh, we're farmers from the country.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like
and actually,
like your like great grandparents like helped grow these trees that you are suckling the nectar of the tree. You know, like
Yes.
that
and
is so
feeding
meta.
other people
Yes.
with that same history, like literally in you, and like the olives and olive oil literally from that land.
Yeah.
Is like that's so it's like that's magic.
is.
Through
It's
all
really
the
special.
insanity of everything, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's magic.
Yeah, there's some like legend story about how my family got that land, that several hundred years ago, like an ancient relative of mine, it was like during the Ottoman Empire, and some like general, I'm gonna mess this up, some general like came and basically like massacred a lot of people in our like family, in our village, and then this ancestor of mine took a knife with his name on it, with the Irshaid name, and went to his like snuck into his like tent, and then just put the knife on his pillow and left to show him like, this is who I am, and I spared you. I could have killed you, but I didn't. And apparently he was like so taken aback by like the honor that he like gave him a donkey and said like, let him walk as far as you want, and wherever he walks, that's be like your land, and we won't touch it. And so apparently that's our land, which I love that story so much. But yeah, it's a, I mean, that's like the one place on earth that I know I can trace back, like my blood
That's
from.
the Nadia lore.
That's the Lord. And actually, there are trees from that farm that were moved to my grandmother's garden in Amman, and those are the olive trees in her garden.
How do they do that?
I don't know. I don't know, but they're brought as like saplings, and now they're her olive trees in her.
Wow. Okay, so
in
they
her
were small,
garden.
and then right. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, with all the olive trees being burned, being destroyed, like, can they be do you think, I feel like Palestinians have known that that's probably going to happen, so I feel like they have, like, a backup plan to, like, replant or something. Like, is it possible? I mean,
well, I mean,
They're so old.
The loss of old trees
Yes.
is a tragedy that you cannot reverse. But there are some organizations. There's this great group called the Arab Group for the Protection of Nature, APN, and they pledge to. They are basically this organization that every time they burn one tree, we plant 10. So they're just
So
like
they
going
do
back and trying to
That's
replant
nice.
trees. And so there are people who are trying to do that. Yeah.
So we wanted to do this podcast because we just felt like the past 16 months, but for me, for like longer than that, it's been all about dismantling. But part of this is also reimagining something for the future and creating, because I believe we're all vessels for God, and we're creating, like you said so beautifully, that each of us has a role here. And that we're kind of all doing it right now, and it's so amazing how we all met too, like separately but together, and how we're all doing the thing, you know.
Yeah.
So if we could just take a moment to manifest, where do you see yourself in like 5 years?
I'm so bad at this, you know, actually, like, I'm so bad at, like, the 5-year plan thing, because I have ideas, but, like, I mean,
Okay,
for myself personally, or
1
the
year,
world, like,
or both. I was gonna say personally, like, or do you have dreams of opening a restaurant, or your film being featured in Sundance Film Festival, like stuff like that? I'm really good at this, so.
I know, yes, you are. You actually are really good at
Do you want me to just manifest script your life?
I think what I see coming forth from me is a book and a documentary narrative experimental series that blends food and storytelling. Inshallah, that's that's been on my radar for a long time. And yeah, those are the two things I'll speak on for now. But I do really want to have a book. I've always been, I love popping up. I love cooking for people. I haven't felt like I needed to open a restaurant. But I've always said, if the right partner came into my life who really knew the restaurant business,
the business
more than
side
I
of it,
do,
yeah.
And we can make it work and be really great, then that would be beautiful to open a space one day. If the right person comes into my field.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a slow cultural shift. It's a slow and then fast and slow cultural shift that we are going through right now, that is really just awakening people to deeper care and empathy for the beings on this earth.
Yeah,
and how connected
and that's
we are.
all. That's like for everybody, regardless of identity, right?
Yes.
That's like, we are in this moment with climate change, and just like it has to be like, that has to be the calling. And I think that that's how we are trying to live, right? And to use our voices and platforms for whatever, like, a specific way that's going to be understood or expressed.
Yeah.
That's,
So we have some rapid fire questions. Are you open to it?
Sure.
I know. This I did not prep people on because I wanted
that's
it to
fun.
be like,
No, I like that. I like that.
spontaneous.
I'm into it.
So
Yeah.
do you know your big three in astrology, sun, moon, and rising?
I'm a Capricorn sun and moon and
Ooh.
Sag rising.
Wow. Nelly is also a Capricorn moon.
How interesting.
Interesting.
Moons
And what is one thing your followers don't know about you that you think they would be like surprised about?
They don't know about.
She's like, I'm not telling.
Because you're actually pretty private.
I'm pretty private. I try to be. I don't know if this is a secret or not. I'm really into boxing.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That is a
I really love
secret.
doing boxing. I don't know if it's like a secret, but
No, but, like, people
I don't,
wouldn't know.
Like, share
Like,
my.
yeah.
I don't like share that I'm like a fitness girly much, but
Yeah.
Are you a fitness girly?
I like being a fitness.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. Just how I didn't know you were a cook or like a chef.
Nobody knows. You know what's so funny also about, well, actually something a lot of people don't know apparently is that I'm a photographer and a cinematographer, which is very hilarious to me because
you're like, that's how it's
like, that's literally been my whole like career in life,
Existence?
except like
Yeah.
3 years ago I started cooking professionally.
Yeah.
So like that's
But you
such
can
a funny
tell you have
thing.
an eye because
Yes,
your videos are
absolutely.
so aesthetically pleasing.
thank
So
you.
that's not far-fetched. I wouldn't be surprised about that. I would
Yeah.
be like, what?
Another question is, what do you think makes a New Yorker? What do you think a New Yorker is defined by?
Is that for me to say? I'm not born here.
Okay, well, so, but you live
that,
here.
yeah,
but
so we've
yeah.
been having this debate with a couple of New Yorkers. And so some people say you have to be born here and you have to live here for
20 years? 25?
Well, some people say decades, some people say 20. And then other people say you have to have lived here. Because so Nelly's answer was you have to be born here and you have to live in the boroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you consider yourself a New Yorker?
I don't know about
It's so interesting.
I don't want to.
You don't want to
claim it, right?
I don't want to claim. Well,
that's so interesting.
I think I've lived here for 12 years. I feel like I grew up here a second time because I moved here when I was like a baby 18-year-old. And so I really became who I was here.
Yep.
And I feel more at home in this city than like anywhere else. And so I don't know if I can call. I've told some people I've been here for 12 years. They're like, "Oh, you're a New Yorker now." I'm like, "Okay, you said it. That's fine."
And you live in a borough, so right?
I mean, Brooklyn. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a borough.
I've also lived all over the city.
Yeah.
I've lived in Staten Island, you guys.
Oh. You know, I've only been to Staten Island once.
And then you turned around and came back.
My cousin lived there for a little bit, and so I literally took. Have you ever been there?
I don't think so.
It's like a different world.
It's strange.
I've been on the ferry to do the tour thing when we first moved here, and go to the Statue of Liberty, but that's it.
But I've only been there once, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. But it's as big as Manhattan. It's pretty big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The deeper you go, it's strange. There are pockets of Staten Island where people have never left the island.
Yes,
like never gone to
is
Manhattan.
True. That is
Wow.
true.
Yeah. So it's a
like
world.
its own thing. Yeah. It's there's like this reverence that we have for New York and New Yorkers, which is why we're asking this, and people who feel that way don't want to rush to claim it. It's interesting. And then yesterday we were having a conversation with someone who will hopefully be here one day too in the show. And he was the one that was
He was very tough.
Yeah, it was so
like,
tough.
You have to be born here, and
he was like literally asking like
every little
where
thing,
Laura
like,
lived in the Bronx before. Like that doesn't count.
Because I lived in the Bronx, and he knew that I lived in a specific area of the Bronx, and I was like, wow, you're very specific.
Yeah. But that speaks to the love for the city.
Yeah, and a protection.
Yeah,
but also I
really
think it's such a special place for this intersection of activism, art, and culture, and how we all kind of found each other. And it's like, oh, you live in New York?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So it's a very special place.
Which is why we're like, oh my gosh, we must keep gathering in real life, because there's something that happens that is totally different from like online virtual world, right? Like when it's like a going back to tribal times, I feel like too, to be like, hey, let's like break bread together. Let's sit and have tea together. Like it's important, right?
Yeah. Okay, last question. If there was no such thing as colonialism or capitalism, what would you do? Like if you didn't have to work, you didn't have to like, we're not resisting anything, right? Like
Palestine is free.
We probably would not have this podcast.
Yeah,
right?
you don't have to like fight for liberation because it exists. It's like it's.
Oh man, I'd probably be like a little like magician in the woods. I would just like
frolic.
I would just like frolic and make like herbal medicines and like pray on the land and just like I think that's like that's all I would do if I didn't have to do anything
just
else.
Frolic and
paint, watercolor. I love watercoloring. That's
That's like it's like the essence of like what we're allowed to dip into as children, like as child. Like you see with kids, it's just like playing and being in nature and doing like laughing together, doing things like that. Like I mean, maybe we keep creating a world that will allow more of that for everybody.
Yeah,
I love it.
Do you have anything else you want to share before we close?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Y'all are great. Thank you for the tea also.
Yay. It's gotten cold now because we talked for ages.
Yes.
Yay.